Hello Internet, I'm Elliot the Purple Doofus and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today we are covering issue number 10 of Fables by Bill Willingham. I hope you've read that issue yourself because I do not want to ruin anything for you. So this starts off with Snow waking up with a bandage around her head and in a white void next to Colin's head on a pike. Gruesome. She's like, where am I? Colin's like, you're probably in purgatory. She's like, am I dead? And he's like, well, you've got that kind of wanting to strive on to dear life kind of look to you, so maybe not. She says, what should I do? And he says, well, maybe you should wake up. And then she wakes up in the hospital. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world did she survive a bullet through the brain? That is miraculous. But she wakes up and Bigby is there. And Bigby is like, well, Rose, you're finally awake. Let me tell you what happened after you got shot in the head. And he says, well, as soon as you got shot, the revolt tried to go back, but all the boys were there and they took them all down. Things returned to normal-ish. A couple of weeks pass, Bigby comes back, and he says, you know, the trials have begun. They've begun to try the animals that tried to revolt. And you see some of them coming through, like the pig, and he's like, I am sorry for what I have done. And they're like, no use for that. You are a ringleader. You are sentenced to death. And the fox comes by, and they're like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. You'll have to forgive us for, not giving you any recommendation right now, but soon. And he's like, oh, whatever, just happy to help. And then we have Snow, and she's getting released from the hospital, and everyone's like, yay! And then we go back to the farm, and there's pigs being executed. And it's like, oh. And as she is being wheeled out by Bigby, she asks, okay, I know you've kind of been skirting around the issue, but what about Rose? What happened to her? Is she already dead? Did they execute her too? And Bigby's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, I know she was one of the ringleaders. And he's like, are you an idiot? She had convinced the revolutionaries that she was on their side so that they would spare you. And Snow was like, oh. Awkward. But Snow gets back to the city. She's still wheeling around in the wheelchair, and Waylon visits. And the doorman's like, oh, hello, Mr. Waylon. That's a pleasure to see you. And Waylon says, the pleasure's all yours, because I'm sure I'm here to be, fired. And sure enough, he goes in and says, you helped me to survive, but I'm afraid that we're going to have to let you go. And he's like, I totally understand. And she says, but rather than coming back to the city, I was hoping that you might do me a favor. He says, anything, name it. And she says, well, I was hoping that you would continue to make those guns. And he's like, are you crazy? Do you want to go back into the Fable lands and go after the adversary? And she's like, not right away. Not today. Not this year. Maybe not even this decade. But someday, yeah. And we're going to need those weapons that you were forging. They were kind of brilliant. And Waylon says, oh, maybe. Maybe I can do something like that. And then he also says, but I have a surprise for you. It could be good. It could be bad. I hope that you enjoy it. Your sister Rose is here to see you. She waited in the car in case you didn't want to see her. Can she come in? And Snow's like, of course. Let her in. And Waylon goes out and he tells Rose to come in and she goes to visit with Snow. And Snow's like, I am so sorry. I thought you were one of them. She says, think nothing of it. And Snow says, and I totally forgive you for what you did. And Rose is like, thanks, but I still don't forgive you. And she's like, forgive me for what? What did I do? Rose says, are you kidding me? When we were growing up, it was always going to be Snow and Red. It was supposed to be Snow and Red for all eternity. Forever and ever and ever. And now, all these stupid Mondays, all they ever do is they make stupid little cartoons and stories about you. When's the last time they've ever done anything about Rose Red? You want to know why you survived? And that's when I read that, and I was like, yes. Yes, I do. You survived because those Mondays would not let you die. You're far too popular. If you had died, it would crush them. And Snow says, oh. I didn't know. I didn't think about it. And Rose says, of course, you never think about it. You always think about yourself. Snow says, what can I do? Rose says, I have an idea. I finished off all my community hours at the farm and I'm still there. I'm still doing good work. Because when I started working there, I found out that I liked it. And I'm really, really good at it. I know that Waylon is out. Put me in. Make me the head of the farm. She says, I even have some ideas about the giants and the dragon that we woke up. And Snow says, wow. She says, what are you going to do about him? And she says, well, it's going to cost you. I'm thinking about putting a permanent spell on them. And then you find out that she put a permanent spell on these 3 giants to turn them into little pigs. To replace the 3 little pigs that died during this story. And the dragon gets turned into her crow, her kind of familiar. And she's like, he's also my bodyguard. And all the guys are on, what are you talking about? And then she's like, show him. And the crow just breathes like fire. And it's just like, yeah. That's the end of that issue and story arc. It's so good right now. I can't stop reading. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you like this video specifically, go ahead and click that like button. And go ahead and leave a comment letting me know what your favorite story arc in any series has ever been. I've been Elliot the Purple Hair Divas. This has been Buddy Reads, reminding you to watch your pajama radius. And I will see you all in the next issue of Fables by Bill Willingham. Toodles!